It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm excited to be with you today, as I always am, because I have a great guest for you. It's so funny. I always wonder if I'm going to be able to find really good people to come on the podcast, but that just never seems to be a problem. There's so many amazing folks in Northwest Arkansas that make up this special place that a lot of us call home. For those of you that are listening to this that actually physically live here, that there's no shortage of really good people to bring on the podcast. And certainly my guest today is no exception. And that gentleman that is joining me today is someone that I actually just connected with about a month and a half ago. And we'll tell you the whole story through this episode. But without further ado, I want to welcome Ola Atalola, who is the founder of ASAMI Teas, to the episode, to I Am Northwest Arkansas. And if you are a tea drinker, or if you like hot tea in the morning, or you just like tea in general, and you've been drinking Lipton tea all your life, this is the episode for you, because we are about to dispense with some amazing tea knowledge from this individual that has so much experience in this area. And I really want to encourage you, certainly as you listen, to consider trying out ASAMI Teas. And I'll give you my take on it later on in the episode. But without further ado, Ola, welcome to the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. How are you doing today?
Good, Randy. Nice to finally be able to join you on this show and to be able to talk about ASAMI. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess I should say it's spelled ASAMI, but it sounds like there's an H there with the S, so it's like ASAMI Teas. So, but listen, I'd love for you to give your superhero origin story to our listeners so they can learn a little bit more about who Ola Atalola is.
Absolutely, yes. So life started for me back in Nigeria. So originally from Nigeria, moved to the States a while ago. Went to college in North Carolina where I studied food science. I did food science and technology back in North Carolina. So I've been working in the food industry for the past probably 15, 16 years now. Worked in different specialty food industry, like canning, meat industry, frozen food, did restaurants and dairy, so to name a few. So I've always viewed, all the opportunities as a learning opportunity for me to be able to utilize that food knowledge that I have and the passion I have and the culture and the tradition of, coming from Africa to be able to explore wellness from nature, not just, preparing food that are, all chemical based and, made in the lab or things like that. So that natural occurring food that is beneficial for your health is always what I try to, instill. So I believe, building that opportunity with the farmers also. So that's, I got into the ASAMI, even before we have customers. ASAMI started working with farmers long time ago. About 2016 is when we started. So worked with the farmers for the first 4 years. And in 2020, summer of 2020 is when we started, launch online. And so fast forward a little bit. So after college, I started working with those other companies that I've been working with. And I decided to, venture out to also started my company, which I'm the founder of ASAMI, as you talked about. We moved to Northwest Arkansas in 2014. Yes, 2014. I dreaded a little bit, coming to Northwest Arkansas, because I didn't know what to expect. I had to go look at the map and where is Northwest Arkansas? So after I, read a little bit more about Northwest Arkansas, we decided to move to Northwest Arkansas. So far, so good. We love it, and we continue to, grow and enjoy every bit of everything that Northwest Arkansas has to offer.
Well, I love that. And you guys came the same year that I've actually relocated here. And so it's kind of nice to talk to somebody that's been here around the same amount of time that I have. And so I certainly want to ask you this question before we move on. If in like knowing what you know now, would it have been an easier decision for you to make to move here back in 2014?
Yes, because back then I did not know anything about Northwest Arkansas. So your show is actually a great one to have because I've been able to learn quite a bit from, listening to some of the people that came on the show about what to do, what to expect, where to go and where to be and what to do around this area. So back then I didn't know anything about Northwest Arkansas. So I read about it. I looked around. We don't have anybody here. So the first couple of years, it was like, what am I doing in this place? Like, I want to go back to Atlanta. So that was very, very hard to move and to stay here for some time. But over time, we develop, interest and find things to do, build a family and start the business. So it has changed. So yes.
That's good. That's good. Now, originally from Nigeria, you went to school in North Carolina. When did the entrepreneurial bug hit you? When did you say, you know what, I could, regardless that you decided to start a tea company, when did you realize that, you know what, I could actually start my own business? How did you connect those dots and what led you to that idea that you wanted to start your own business?
Well, flashback to, living in Nigeria. I mean, we had our own farm. We grow crops and we rear our own animals. So I've always into farming and, agricultural product. And when we, grow things like, corn, which is maize, and that's what we call it, and, vegetables and things like that, whatever we produce, we are able to process it and also sell what we are able to sell. So that I had a little bit of idea back then, but at the same time, also the processing of things that we get from the farm, it was very hard for us to be able to maintain it because we don't have any preservatives or any storage facilities to be able to store those products. So what we harvest tends to go to waste over time. So that's another reason why I decided to go into food science. And going to the business did not occur to me until, the last 6 years, like I talked about, because one of the reasons was, I talked about during the Curate program, which we'll probably get to, is, I know how to make food. I'm a food scientist, food technologist, but I don't know how to sell anything. So I had to learn how to, sell things and what goes into that process of selling things. Even though I have that little knowledge while I was little, getting things from the farm and selling it. But, it's a different ball game having your own business.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And so was tea kind of like a natural place for you to start, or did you also consider other opportunities before you started the tea?
I did consider other opportunities before I decided to go into tea. I mean, initially wanted to, do other beverages, do bottling of, hibiscus drink. Colloquially, anything that is infused in water, we call it tea. But technically, anything that is Camellia sinensis plant is what is actually tea. So, but we drink a lot of hibiscus, which is, if you, we call it sorio. People from the island will call it sorio. Yeah. So we call it zobo back in Nigeria. So we consume a lot of that. So I initially started that, but the capital to do ready-to-drink bottling was very expensive, and it was just labor-intensive and capital to start up that. So tea came to my mind because we've always drink tea in our culture. When you go and visit anybody in Africa, tea is one of the things that they will present you, for breakfast, dinner, or lunch. So, and I looked around when I came into the States a long time ago. That all I see, like you talked about earlier, is Lipton. That commodity tea is what you see around. the cheap tea. That's what you see. That when you brew it once, you just like the flavor is gone. You're not getting much benefit from it. So I couldn't find all the tea that we drink, and had to look into what can I do to help put the continent on the map, because I couldn't find any of the tea that we drink back home here, other than the commodity tea that I talked about. So tea naturally came to mind after I thought about it. Yes.
And how was it hard for you or difficult for you to start cultivating those relationships with local farmers where you get your tea? Because I think that's another part of your story that's really interesting. I know we've had another guest on the podcast, and his name is John Allen. And John and his wife started Onyx Coffee. And one of John's big things is that he knows all the growers of his coffee, of the coffee beans that he roasts. And so he goes over there. And when I say over there, I mean he goes over to different parts of the world where these coffee growers are to inspect what they're growing and to build relationships with them. How hard was that for you to establish those relationships with the tea growers and those that provided the ingredients that make up your great tea?
Yes, that's a great question. So the first 4 years before we had our customer, we used that time to, travel back and forth and, develop a good relationship with those farmers that we want to work with. Initially, it was very hard because, knowing the farm, the estate that the tea comes from, and trying to do business with them was a challenge, because most of those farmers, they don't have any experience in exporting anything into the state, and they don't know the requirements. So you had to work with them and help them develop all the necessary paperwork, documents, and things like that. And make sure you also, develop a good quality program and food safety program with them. After you've lived with the farmers for some time, you know what they need, how you can help them. Sleep with them, eat in their house, and see the condition of their house, and travel to their farm with them, see the way they're plucking teas, and how it's labor intensive, and how is it's all, and everything is done by hand. There's no equipment or anything like that. So this is a real hard work. So you want to give back to them, you want to help them. So that really hit home, because like I said earlier, I've worked on the farm before too. I know how hard that is. So it's to answer your question, it was initially very hard trying to find the farmers you have to work with, and then putting all the politics aside, because just like in Kenya, everything is controlled. All the tea is controlled by the government, just like the cocoa industry in Ghana or Ivory Coast is all controlled by the government. But we didn't want to get into that politics, so we went and the smallholder farmers, the smaller farmers is who we wanted to work with, the independent farmers, so that we bypass all the politics and just focus on who we want to work with directly.
Okay, all right, yeah. I mean, and that like I said, I mean, people don't. It's hard to appreciate. It's hard to appreciate that there's so much back work that goes into establishing those relationships and developing them over time. And especially, I mean, Africa is a large continent, right? And there are different types of specialty tea throughout the continent. So, I mean, I'm sure you've had your work cut out for you throughout this process of getting ASAMI tea off the ground.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, East Africa, for example, when you look at it right now, we just posted something today on our on our Instagram page or in social media about all the natural disaster going on. So, the tropical storm Anna just happened about a week ago, and we've been in contact with people, our farmers in Rwanda, in Malawi, and all the southern part of Africa, and see what's going on, how they are coping with the natural disaster that is going on over there, flooding and issues that is going on over there. Currently, did destroy some farms, the bridge in between Malawi that they go through to get to their farms and things like that. It was destroyed. So, yes, it's a tough situation trying to, work with them, but it gives me a bit more fulfillment wanting to know wanting to know where the food that I eat comes from is always a thing for me. Know what is added into that food and be able to know what is, I put in my body. I know most people are doing that also currently. And it's a good thing to be able to help those farmers.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because you're absolutely right. I remember getting a lesson on tea. And for those of you, the uninitiated, when we think of tea, and again, I'm being funny, and I'm not picking on Lipton, but like a Lipton tea bag, if you look at that, you cut that tea bag open and pour it out, it's just ground up. It's almost indecipherable for you to tell exactly what it is that you're steeping in your hot water. But now you compare that to, and I've seen this with other tea companies that, pride themselves on the quality ingredients, but the ingredients that ASAMI includes in their teas, these are whole pieces of different spices and a little bit of everything that makes up their tea. And you can visibly see that when you look at their mesh tea bags, which, by the way, are compostable and are environmentally friendly. So as not to create extra waste. When you throw that tea bag away, you don't have to worry about, how long is that going to take to compost in the garbage, that it's going to do that fairly quickly. And so, I applaud your ability to kind of bring this high quality of a tea from Africa, or some like to call it the motherland, all the way over here to the United States, and to do it with, so many different options. How were you able to determine what was going to be your first group of teas that you were going to package up and sell to the general public?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So after we developed the relationship with the farmers and travel back and forth and, know what who we're working with. So twice a year, they will send us fresh harvest. And when we do our selection or cupping, we do it blind so that doesn't bias any relationship we have with the farmer or the price of the tea they are selling it for and things like. Since I know the price of the tea and what it entails, so we do blind tasting. So based on that, we are able to say, okay, this is the tea that we like, and then we're able to say, okay, communicate back to the farmers and say, can you send us this and this or that, and then once that is done, we bring it in. We test it with the water over here also. Again, we get some other spring water and test it with it and make sure that it's good. And we will package it and inspect it and, start sharing it with everybody. But it goes through a series of quality testing. We get our COAs, and then we also send samples to the lab to make sure that, the product that we're getting doesn't contain anything that can get, people sick. I mean, though tea is very low risk. People who had water to it to make sure that it kills anything. But at the same time, you want to make sure that, what you're getting in is safe and it's good for everybody.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And certainly with that being said, I mean, it doesn't make things easier to go through this process, especially when you're shipping it and bringing it over to the United States. What did the pandemic do to you guys as far as from a logistics standpoint, from a supply standpoint? How did that impact your ability to get ASAMI off the ground?
Oh, yeah. So, we started in June of 2020, even though we did use the first 4 years to do research, that's the middle of pandemic when we started, right? So that was a tough one. We were expecting some shipment to come in, and we were lucky to get them in on time, but the subsequent shipments they were delayed. So good thing for us, most of our things they don't go through California. They come through Houston. So from Houston port, and then it comes to our warehouse in Gentry, Arkansas. So we would love to host you one of these days so that you can see what we do over there.
I'm definitely coming up to visit for sure. So.
Absolutely. So
yeah,
it was a little interrupted, but fortunately for us, not too bad. Still, we had most of the issues with the tea for our pharmacies. They were harvesting so much tea at that time, but they couldn't ship it out because everything was standstill, nothing was moving. So the price of tea dropped. Good for the market, but not good for the farmer. But at the same time, nobody can bring anything in as fast as we needed it to be in the market. So we find ways to get it moving, and we have abundant supply right now, and thank God. We don't buy as much because, you don't want things to stay on the shelf for too long. So that's why every 6 months we are getting fresh supply from our farmers. Otherwise, it's just going to stay there and get stale. And so we need that fresh rotation every 6 months.
So, okay, and that's a good question because I want to give people a little bit of tea education. And I'm holding here a pouch that you guys put out, which is kind of, I guess it's originally vacuum packed, and then once you open it, the air gets to it. But so just so I understand, and these pouches typically have about 15 pyramid style tea bags in them. What is the shelf life once somebody buys some good tea and then opens up the package? How long does that last?
So we're using a base. So the tea you're holding right there is Ashanti cocoa. So the base for that tea is black tea from Kenya. So the common notion is 2 years. But for us, we do a year for our shelf life so that, people don't keep it for too long. But, for 15 bag, it's going to be gone pretty soon. Yeah, it's not like coffee or, but at the same time, it goes real fast. I mean, people drink tea because of the benefit, because of, even during the winter right now, a lot of people are cupping down tea. So it doesn't stay that long. But to answer your question, it's a year for us, but the industry says 2 years.
Okay. And that's good to know. And I think you're absolutely right. It's hard for, like, even with my coffee, I even mark the date when I get it, when I ground it, because I don't, after a while, it's like coffee can't just sit around. I mean, it's just like anything that comes from the ground has a shelf life to it. So you just need to remember that, right? Certainly processed food, Twinkies, those things will last for forever and a day. But when you talk about things like this, like the teas that you guys are making, there is definitely a shelf life. And I just wanted to kind of educate people on that. Did you choose some of the different offerings that you have based on the benefit to the user? Like, so for instance, you have some naturally caffeine-free teas like Rooibos, which is my favorite word. And then you have, like you just mentioned, the black tea blend, which is caffeinated. And a lot of people don't realize that they can get some high quality, really good caffeine from just drinking tea. They don't have to drink coffee, and that maybe they don't have the same jitters that they might get from the consumption of coffee versus tea. And that's something to consider.
Yes, absolutely. So tea do have a lot of benefits, and you're right about the caffeine level. So, let's say, I'm just throwing out a number right there, you have 150 milligrams of caffeine from a cup of your coffee.
Yep.
It's going to be half of that, 75 for for your caffeine level in your tea. So you don't get that jitteriness like you talked about in tea. So the caffeine slowly stream into your bloodstream, gets into your bloodstream. So you are not getting all that high intense caffeine in your bloodstream. And the health benefit is also really great. Depends on what tea you drink. There's scientific belief out there, and also traditional belief that tea is has all these polyphenols and phytochemicals and antioxidant that will help you keep you strong and keep your immune system going and prevent you from getting sick. So that's one thing about Africa. Also, we reach to herbs and spices and tea before we take any medicine like tablet or anything like that. We're able to combine things like lemongrass or mint, any other tea product to clear any respiratory illness before we reach for anything else. So that's I put into consideration when I'm making all these blends. So like the black tea, it's got some cayenne pepper in there. It's got some black pepper in there, to help with the digestion and respiratory things like that. So everything that I'm putting together, I'm considering the health benefit of those ingredients that goes in them. So I'm the master blender for all the teas. So I'm tasting everything and I'm considering all the benefits of the teas and ingredients that are going into them.
Yeah. Well, and that's great. And I love some of the names that you came up with. Zambia Untamed, which is a naturally caffeine-free Rooibos tea blend. And then the Seychelles Serenity, That's quite meta, but naturally caffeine-free Rooibos tea blend as well. Tell me where your teas are available right now. I know people listening to this that love tea are going to be like, okay, well, how can I find Olu's teas?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So we we started online on our website www.asamiteshop.com, and also you can find us on Walmart.com. You can find us on Amazon, Etsy. We in Northwest Arkansas. You can Leverage Lounge. I'm not saying it right, but Leverage Lounge.
Leverage Lounge. Yep.
Yeah. It's another place, a good customer of ours. Cafe 211 at the Bentonville Library is another place you can find us. Bite and Bowl in Springdale. You can find us there. Different places. Around here. Yeah, just to name a few. Yes.
Well, I love that. So definitely Walmart.com, Etsy.com, and then, of course, some of those local restaurants. And I know as you continue to get out there and get in front of people, you're going to work to get this tea available in a lot of different places. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So listen, as we close out, I would love to just talk with you about an event that you just participated in recently. And just to put it out there, you actually won some money in this event. You participated in a food and beverage pitch competition with Curate. And Curate, we had Curate on the podcast recently, and just an outstanding organization. And I wanted to just kind of highlight what has that program done for you and for your business, and how has the money that you won in the pitch competition helped you to continue to advance ASAMI?
Yeah, so Curate is a great program. I will encourage people to, whenever the spring program is on, I think it's on already or it's coming up very soon, for people to join and take part in that class. So you get to learn a lot about business, how to run your business, and be able to also, pick, other entrepreneurs that are in the community, pick their brain and do things with them collaboratively, and see how, you can grow your business. So that was a great, experience. It was a 10-week program, and I learned a lot from there in the business world. Like I said earlier, I can make food, I can make beverages, I can make drinks, I can do all that because I've been working in the food industry for quite some time. But running my own business, I have no clue. So Curate was able to help me in that aspect. So after the course, we had the pitch competition. So I was able to talk about what we do currently, and we want to take ASAMI to the next level with our packaging. So that gave us the opportunity to win that competition. So that 5,000 is already it's already rolling for our new packaging that is coming out very soon. So with that packaging, we have a UPC on the package. It's a corrugated box, like a canister, that will keep the product fresh, and it's going to look good on the shelf also. And people can also scan that QR code to be able to trace back where the product is coming from. So if it's coming from a farm in Rwanda, they'll be able to see that farm, know the farmers that work on the tea that they're drinking, and be able to read more about that farmer, be able to read more about the farm itself, and know how the process from getting it from the farm to our community over here or around the world is. And also, if they want to, tip the farmer, they can also tip the farmer on our website, and that fund is going to go straight to those farmers. So we'll be able to do more with that 5,000. So we're very appreciative of that.
Yeah, man, that's great. I was really happy for you, and actually everybody that participated did an outstanding job. And Curate is a great program, especially for people that are in the food and beverage space here in Northwest Arkansas that are looking for a little additional help, like Ola was, and how he really grew in that 10-week period. So I would encourage anybody listening to this to consider checking out curate.co. They will do more cohorts. So if you can't make it for the spring, you could probably look out for them in the fall of 2022. But certainly I would encourage you to do that, because it's an outstanding program, and everybody that participated really benefited from it. So, and Ola, I'm really excited for how you were able to benefit from winning the pitch competition and what that's going to do to the production of your teas here in the United States. So I wish you nothing but the best, man. If people listening to this want to reach out to you, I know on Facebook you're at ASAMI, and that's just ASAMI. On LinkedIn, you're at ASAMI _ LLC. So that's ASAMI _ LLC. And then what's your email address if somebody wants to email you?
Yeah, so directly email is info@ashamitshop.com.
Okay. And that website address is ASAMI Teashop, all one word, .com.
Correct.
Perfect. Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to just sit down and talk with us today. This was such a rich conversation, and we're really excited for all the good things that you're doing here in Northwest Arkansas. So listen, real quickly, while I have you, what do you like to do here in Northwest Arkansas when you're not busy crafting up the next greatest tea concoction?
Oh gosh, yeah. So yeah, when I have time, me and the family will like to go to restaurants around here to see what the chefs around here. We have some gifted chefs around here, so we go around to explore, and we also we'll go to the Walton Center in Fayetteville, Walton Arts Center, to watch any theater or show that is in town. We get to explore that. Take a walk around the community and see what's we like nature, so we get to do that. Arkansas is beautiful, and that's another reason why they call it a natural state, right? So we get to enjoy that. But if we're not in town, we get to go to the surrounding area, because between here and Texas, where we have some family, we can go to Dallas or Houston or go to Kansas City or Memphis or anywhere around. It's in the 5-hour radius. We can do a lot if we're not doing anything around here. So we get to get out of town sometime.
Yeah, we're in a great location. We are in a great location.
We miss going to the beach, but we take at least once a year to go out to the beach and enjoy. But there's so much to do around here also.
Absolutely. Well, Ola Atalola, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. We really, really appreciate it. You've shared where we can find your teas. You can get them online at walmart.com and so many other places. But we certainly want to pub up Walmart, since that's right in our own backyard, that you can order the teas. And certainly we want to just encourage everybody to try these teas. You will not be disappointed. They are really good. They are really fresh. And I mean, I'm still looking at the box that Ola shared with me a couple of weeks ago. And as I shared with him before we started recording this, my kids love tea, and they devoured this tea. They left very little for their mother and I to enjoy. But needless to say, you've got a customer for life in us. And I hope that people listening to this episode decide to try out ASAMI tea. You will not be disappointed. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. To learn more about us or to read or download the show notes from today's episode, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. You can also listen to this podcast and sign up for our free newsletter to keep up with us and all things NWA. Sign up today. Please consider following the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast wherever you listen to it, and please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Remember, our podcast comes out every Monday, rain or shine. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn. We'll see you back here next week for another new episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.